welcome back to my podcast. I've got quite a lot of things to show you today because I know I've been away for a few weeks. I think January really started to get me down. I was still creating because it was my way of getting through, but I couldn't go tra-la and pretend that I was, okay. So anyway, I gave it a bit of a break, so I hope that was fine. And so I've got two finished works, and I've got two works in progress and two new works. And I've also got an update on the book that I was doing in the last episode and my log cabin quilt that I showed in a previous episode. So quite a lot to discuss. And that naughty cat that you saw at the end of the last episode, Maisie, she disappeared for 2 whole days and 2 whole nights this weekend. So it's supposed to be like Valentine's weekend, and I just spent the whole time crying my eyes out. Oh goodness, I just envisaged so many horrible images in my head. And then she walked through the door. I think she'd been trapped in someone's garage all weekend, even though I did put out leaflets. The weather was so bad, people probably thought, oh, I can't be bothered to go out and look, because the weather was awful, so windy and wet, sleety, horrible, cold. And again, because the weather was so bad, I was really worried about her, you know. She's elderly. And then I read somewhere that elderly cats sort of walk off into the sunset to die alone. I thought, oh my goodness. Anyway, she walked through the door, was promptly sick. I think it was just a shock, and then she just spent the whole morning being traumatised. I was traumatised, she was traumatised. She's just sort of getting over it now, so hopefully that doesn't ever happen again. I've reinforced all the fences and everything, so she can't really get out of the garden anymore. Trauma over trauma. Anyway, so have I ever discussed this before? I'm not sure. This was my foray into Tunisian crochet, and I just had some minis in my stash. I just went online and found the most basic, well, not the most basic, 'cause it's got a zigzag pattern to it. Anyway, it's quite a nice pattern. And all these different minis are all lovely colours. Don't ask me what they were because it's a long time ago. So that's one side, and then that's the stitch on the other side. So I didn't do a mebus, I just did a straightforward cowl. But it does go round twice. If you want to be really warm and cosy outside, it does go round. So that's quite good. I just sort of made that up as I went along, really. So that's that. Well, I can take that off because I want to show you some of my other things. I'm going to put some glasses on today because I noticed in my last podcast I was squinting the whole time. Never very attractive, is it, looking at someone squinting? These aren't my proper glasses, that's the only thing. They're my upstairs glasses. I have downstairs glasses and upstairs glasses, and these are like my second best ones now. Right, so things that I finished. Oh yeah. I've suddenly gone blank. I think I've put all this stuff on them. They were on the back of my chair. Okay, so the first thing I finished was my frosted neckerchief from Inside Crochet issue 131. I called this Stellina neckerchief because I had used an Elm Tree Yarns yarn, and it's got Stellina in it. This is it's just a fingering weight sock yarn, and use just 100-gram skein. So that to me, that's quite a substantial. It's not a shawl as such, but it makes a really nice neck covering, and the stitch is interesting because it's like that on that side and like that on that side, so it's a lovely textured stitch. Oh, excuse me. And got little tassels. And because of the shape of it and also the weight of the stitch, it does actually, and I think the tassels help as well, it does actually go around your neck and sort of sit quite nicely. You know how some one skein shawls just don't cover you and they keep falling off and they're just a waste of time basically. They end up just staying in my drawer. Whereas this, I will actually wear this, and I think it would be quite nice as a summer, like on a chilly summer, maybe a chilly summer evening or something, just to give a bit of extra warmth. Because of the stellina and the way it catches the light and the colouring, I think that's really quite versatile actually, so I'm pleased with that. Very pleased with that. And the other thing I finished was actually something that I sort of gave up on. So I transformed it. This was going to be my Mosaic crochet blanket. And I'd already realised I'd made a mistake with the pattern, whereas I made it into continuous crosses instead of crosses with squares in between. And now I imagine this would make a lovely blanket. It was double knit yarn, and it makes a really beautiful, dense fabric. But because I use dark yarn as well, I just got a bit fed up with it. Just sort of, because really it takes 2 rows to do 1 row, because you're just picking at the fronts of stitches and then the next row you pick at the back of the stitch sort of thing, or go down a row. Anyway, I thought I'm not really enjoying this. So, you know, crochet is about sitting there, mindfulness, enjoying your craft. I thought I'm not really enjoying it, so what's the point? So what I did was, and of course the wonderful thing about crochet as opposed to knitting is that you just loop it, you know, put your yarn through and loop, you haven't got any of that casting off. So anyway, I stopped when I finished a complete pattern repeat. So that's about, here's my ruler. I suppose it's about, yeah, it's 6.5 inches wide, which isn't a bad, 6.5 inches isn't bad for a scarf. It's sort of not too bulky. And so, and what I did was, because obviously it wasn't wide enough, you could put it around your neck and sort of pin it with a brooch or something, but I thought, oh, I don't want that. So I did a crochet, textured crochet stitch, to put the ends on. I'd used the darker version of the yarn and made some little pom-poms, and I think that actually works quite well. I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's quite a nice, it's subtle, and the Mosaic does curl a little bit, so I had to block it. I think that's quite a nice length. See, they just add the required length to make it into a proper wearable scarf. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. So that's my 2 finished things. And it also meant, because I finished something, it meant I could start other things. There's a method to my madness. Works in progress. I'm doing the Navajo blanket from this book. And I've been getting on quite well with that. This is quite nice because you just make lots of you make it in modules, you know, small triangles, small squares at a time. And it's got quite big now. Oh, can't see me. And I've just started, I've decided on the width. So I've now putting in that, so that's the width of it. But I haven't yet decided on the length that I want. I'm still going, I'm going further than the pattern, further than the width in the pattern, and I'm further in the length as well. Because I don't really, I do use the odd lap blanket for the cat sitting on my lap or something. But I sort of think a blanket needs to be substantial to be really useful. So I'm making it bigger anyway. So where's my edge? Oh yeah. I've just finished this black edge here, and that then adds up to the edge, so then it just means doing the other 3 edges of that. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. That's good. That's using up all my Aran Wave 80s yarn successfully. And what doesn't, obviously, you know, I'll carry on using that for other projects. And my other work in progress was this shawl. It's the Gwindra shawl. It was by Blacker Yarns, and the designer is Sonia Bargielowska for Blacker Yarns. That's the, I don't know if you'll be able to see that really, picture. Well, mine's nearly finished now, so you'll be better off looking at what I've been doing. It's a very long process doing the border, just to warn you, but it's worth it, and it's not difficult. It's just, it's much better than having to pick up and knit a border. You know, this way it sort of makes itself. But it's when you think that you've near finishing it, this bit takes a lot, it takes ages. And you have to sort of keep a track of your rows as well, so it's not exactly TV knitting. Well, it is if you can keep your track. Anyway, so this is where I am with this. Be careful I'm not doing something drastic and undoing something. Yeah, okay. I think I'm holding it up the wrong way. There we go. Look at the beauty of that yarn. This is from Ovis Yarns. Didn't use Blacker Yarns in the end. And look at that gorgeous blue contrast. Oh my goodness, I love it. Love it, love it. The blue with that orange and red. Oh, yummy, yummy. And the gorgeous knitted on as you go, knitted as you go border. So it's got cables and lace. I'm really, really pleased with it. I will definitely wear this. It is so soft, and it's a fingering weight, probably a heavy fingering weight, but they use 5mm needles in the pattern, so it comes up very loose and light. Beautiful, beautiful weight. But I imagine this wouldn't be any good with sock yarn. It needs something really woolly to fill out the gaps, otherwise it wouldn't really work. It'd be holey and sparse and a bit rubbish. So I think I use exactly the right yarn for it. So I'm hoping that in my next podcast I would have finished this one. I sort of do a couple of repeats every day, so just keep it going. That's that. And I've started 2 new projects, as you do. Right, this one This is using this Debbie Bliss yarn that I got in the charity shop just the day before lockdown. I'm so glad I did. It's beautiful. It is, and it's the perfect yarn for this project. It's almost the yarn for the project, even though it comes from Vogue Knitting Winter Special 1987. And I can remember seeing this garment in this magazine and wanting to knit it, but there's no way I could get the yarn because, well, in 1987, you basically had your acrylics from Woolworths, and that was it. There was no online shopping. There was, you know, and this was an American magazine as well. So I just thought, nice, but you know, anyway. So here it is. It's a massive, beautiful, oversized Fisherman's smock. And it's actually knitted in a wool cotton yarn. So it couldn't have been better. I get perfect stitch tension. So I'm very excited about that. And this is what I've done so far. Luckily I do have loads of balls for it, just right, because it takes up quite heavy short yarn, if you know what I mean. I'm already on my third ball and I've only done that. So basically you do like, this is the split at the side, which is the first bit of it, and then this will obviously be joined to the next side, to the front, and then you make this, they call it a placket, and I think you decorate it with buttons at the end. So and it's in quite a neutral colour. I can imagine going to the beach on a sort of breezy day and wearing this with a t-shirt underneath it, and it can be any season. It's a nice neutral colour, so I'm quite excited about that. And that's TV knitting, because it's apart from that placket, it's stocking stitch really. And I'm really excited to be using a charity shop yarn and using a 1987 pattern that I've had, you know, I've taken care to look after all these magazines all these years, because I knew that they were really classic designer patterns. You don't seem to get things like that anymore. The original Vogue Knitting magazine was truly like groundbreaking. You had like Fred Perry, Perry Ellis, Adrienne Vittadini, you know, Kay Fassett. They used to design, you used to get actual like, really well-known top designers having their input, and they were some really amazing patterns. That's why I kept them. Anyway, that's that. And the other thing, I tried to do, I thought, right, I want to do a shawl, and I wanted to use up some of this, more of this, because I've obviously got quite a lot of this left over still, because I didn't do the blanket. Oh my goodness, have you ever had that where you start a crochet project and it hasn't got the graph of everything, you know, the pattern of it written out? What am I trying to say? You know, you can either get a written pattern or you can get the pattern drawn out. And I went to do this pattern, it didn't have it drawn out, it was just written. And whereas with knitting, you've got all your stitches on your needle and you just knit into what you've got on your needle. Obviously with crochet, you've got the hook, you've got the blob in front of you, and you need to know where to poke your hook. And when you're just starting off with a shawl, I find you have that really awkward phase where you don't really know where it's going. You don't know which are the sides of it, and is that side going to progress is that the shaping, or is that like an edging, or oh, and 3 or 4 times I started this pattern and every time it just ended up as a ball of blob. I thought either I'm mad, the pattern's wrong, or probably both, or I don't know, maybe, or I'm just, I mean, I'm not that experienced as a crocheter, so you know, it's probably me. But anyway, so, but in my spirit of using up my stash yarn, which I'm doing this year, I'm now crocheting the Hydrangea shawl, and I'm using 2 balls of elm tree yarns, sock yarn, that I bought, and that were just so beautiful that I didn't use them. I just stroked them. And I've got 2 leftover balls of the Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal. So I'm starting out at the bottom of the shawl. This is where I am so far. It's like all long and skinny, and it's like that. And I've started with the next colour. I think this is Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. And the lady from Elm Tree Yarns, she goes through various sort of themes with her, and this was the Beatrix Potter era. So I've had them quite a while, and it's sort of an asymmetric design. And once I've done this section, I'm going to use the pale blue Fine Donegal, and then I've got another Elm Tree Yarns, which is this beautiful greeny grey, bits of peach, absolutely lovely. So that's going to be at the end. So I hope that all works out. I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice pattern, quite intuitive, which is what we want, isn't it? We don't want anything too taxing at the moment. So that's the Hydrangea shawl, and that's in Inside Crochet Magazine, and I believe, let me double check, that's the let's have a look. Let's move on. Put the mouse upside down. I thought I'll leave my Ravelry up, and then the Hydrangea shawl by Annalise Space, and it's in Inside Crochet issue 117. Do you like that? Just a quick aside, that's something I made of an old blanket. I was doing shibori and things at the time. Just another little, and I appliqued some metal and some roving on it. Just an aside there. So just remember the Jamie cooking cookbook I showed you at the end of the last one. It's now been mullered. So started there. I mean, there's not much to show. Basically, I ripped out loads of pages and I put gesso over them, and the gesso acts beautifully like a fresco image over the images that are already there, over the text, and it gives you a nice surface to work on. So this was, so you wouldn't know that was really a cookbook, would you? But even things like that, they're just, yeah, I mean, look at that, that's lovely. You won't have to do much of that to get some ideas. It's all about not having a blank page. Have you ever had that where you get a sketchbook and you get all excited? Oh, I've got a new sketchbook. And then you think, oh, I can't possibly write in that sketchbook or make a mark in it because it's too perfect. It's looking at me. The white pages are looking at me and daring me to make a mark. So, but something like this, instantly, I feel inspired and I don't feel intimidated. So that's where I am with that. And after I finish recording this podcast, I'm going to go downstairs and do some jelly printing, because I don't really want to do it up here because I've got lots of textiles up here and, you know, acrylic paints and curtains and carpets and all my textile art and knitting and crochet and yarn and whatever don't really go together. So I like to keep that down away in the utility area, so that makes everyone happy as well then. So that's that. So I'll let you know how my printing goes in my next podcast. Now the log cabin squares. Do you remember I showed you that blanket? All the log cabin squares laid out on the bed. Well, I've been working really hard on my log cabin squares. It's been so beautifully relaxing just to come up to my room, just hand stitch the log cabin squares together, just in my own time, just meditatively trying the different fabrics, just cutting them, no measuring. It's just been a wonderfully meditative, relaxing, amazing thing to do. It's just been one of the best things I've ever done. I just loved it. So now I had this big wodge of squares. And do you remember the ones that I got from the charity shop that the previous person had half made? Well, there was one that wasn't finished. This one. She'd just done a little bit of the green, or he had just done a little bit of the sort of the heart shape. And I've finished it off basically. So I sewed up, these ends were open. So I sewed them up and appliqued those properly. And here I used some bits from a previous patchwork that I made. I never actually used these because I did it as an experiment and I didn't really lay flat and I wasn't sure what I was doing. So, but they've come in wonderfully here. And this is from a bit of rescued canvas work and crewel work that I found in the same shop, same charity shop. Not at the same time, different time. And I think they all go together beautifully. And I had to fit it in as well within my template, so I couldn't go too mad. So it had to fit within that. So I did that. And then, so I did all these, made all these little squares, loads and loads. Just love it, love it, love it. And now I've started to do the quilting. I got some Violin Super Soft, I think it is. It's 100% cotton. It's been needle punched. As you can see, it's not very fat. It's not going to be the sort of quilt that keeps you warm in the winter. It's more of a cover, it's more of a, you know, it's for show really, to go over the bed. But for hand quilting, you don't want it too lofty, too thick. This is absolutely perfect for hand quilting. So that's what I'm using. And you can see I'm going round, I'm taking the, you see the little stitches? just using running stitch and using these, which is number 8 cottons, and I've got various colours. Of course I've got the greens as well, and some other pinks. I started off with quite a small colour palette, trying to be true to the sort of green and red theme, but actually there are so many other colours that come through in the squares. It's nice to be able to pick those tones up. So I just thought, oh wow, it's just lovely. It's just a beautiful, colourful quilt. See, like here, I wasn't going to use any yellow, but because there was orange here, I used an orangey thread there. And if you can see the back of the work, I'm doing it in like a spiral. So I go round the first square, like that, start there, go like that around, then go up there, up to the next one, and along, and stop. I don't quilt these bits because they will all be joined together at the end. So what I will do is I'll join all these squares. There's another one I finished here. Oh, this is a nice little one. It's got the little bit in the middle. They will all be joined face to face with a 1/4 inch seam. And then I found this in my stash, really large. It's only cotton, but it's got the green dots on it. It's quite inoffensive. I got 3 meters of this when I went to Paris on my 50th birthday. Went to the haberdashery quarter and got quite a few 3 meter blocks of stuff. So that's quite nice, and I think that will be nice on the back of it. And I've already, because I was searching through for some extra fabrics for this, I found some lovely orange floral fabric, and this most amazing sort of panel that I want on the back. You could have it like a single bed size, or a what do you call it when you put it at the bottom of the bed? All orange. Oh, beautiful orange. So that's in the head boiler bit now. Percolating. Thinking about how I want to do that. I won't do log cabin. I'm going to use a similar method. I really enjoy this method of making a patchwork. I've done the other way of sitting at the sewing machine, you know, cutting everything to the correct size, then putting it through like a production line, and at the end, yeah, you get a lovely quilt. But to me, that's not why I do it. I don't do it to produce a production line item at the end. Anyway, for me, it's about the process. So that's something that I'm thinking about. I'm using this I've been looking at this book for ideas. This sort of gives you ideas about you quilting as you go. Now, the other thing I had was a Cassandra Ellis book, and she sort of works in the same style as I enjoy, where it's like you work in intuitive sort of blocks. It's not about measuring and piecing, it's about playing with the fabric that you've got and working with the sizes that you've got of things, and really intuitive colour mixing, and you know, juxtaposing the different colours and shapes. So yeah, so once I've done this one, I'll start looking at that, I think. So that's, I'm getting a sore throat now. I've never talked for so long. It's like lockdown, isn't it? You don't get to talk to anyone, and then once you start, you can't stop. Anyway, so, and love to Julie if you've made it this far. My friend Julie, who waits for my podcasts. And hope everyone is well, and hope to see you soon. Okay, see you. Bye.